You're listening to Soul Food. We are thrilled to announce the launch of the Soul Food FM shop. Now you can grab Soul Food hoodies, mugs, decals, and more. Every purchase helps us make more Soul Food episodes and bring Soul Food to a wider audience. Visit us today at soulfoodfm.shop.
Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. They say just as our bodies need nourishment to survive, our souls need to be nourished as well. But the question is, how often do we feed our souls? Welcome to Soul Food, a podcast about spiritual refinement. My name is Amjad Tarsin, and I invite you to embark with me on this journey inward to work on our souls. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to episode 26 of Soul Food, where we're going to talk about an extremely important kind of charity that takes place that's connected to the end of Ramadan and the beginning of Eid, the celebration of the completion of the fast, known as Zakat al-Fitr, which is why the episode is titled Zakat al-Fitr. So in this episode, we're going to talk about the obligation of Zakat al-Fitr, why it's an obligation and what it was described as. We're going to talk about when to give it, and then we're going to talk about the importance of seeking acceptance in Ramadan, seeking this acceptance for this entire blessed, worship-filled month of Ramadan. So let's start with the obligation of Zakat al-Fitr. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, was described by Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar, may God be well pleased with them both, who said that فرض رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم زكاة الفطر صاعا من تمر أو صاعا من شعير على العبد والحر والذكر والأنثى والصغير والكبير من المسلمين. He said that the Messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, made it an obligation, made Zakat al-Fitr, this charity at the end of Ramadan, this particular kind of charity, an obligation, and then he describes it, that it was a handful of dates or a handful of wheat, a particular kind of description called a sa', which is a particular unit of measurement, of dates or of wheat, upon every slave or free person, every male or female, or every young or old person from among the Muslims. In other words, every person is responsible for it, but then if you are someone who has family members in your household, whether it's your wife or children, or if you're independent, then you pay it for yourself. But if you have people who are depending on you, you pay it for them as well. Or if you have elderly parents who are not working, that you would pay the Zakat al-Fitr on their behalf as well. And we'll have in the show notes a link that will describe the rulings of Zakat al-Fitr in more detail. But one of the things to understand is that it's an obligation. It's not something to take lightly. It's not something that is a sunnah, but it's something that if you're able to give it, it's an obligation upon you, and that there's a great reward in doing so. And currently in 2017, if you're listening to this in 2017, that Zakat al-Fitr per person equals about $10. That Zakat al-Fitr is about $10 for each person. So if you're paying for yourself, it's $10. If you have other family members and other dependents that you're paying on behalf of, then it's $10 per person. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's not a whole lot of money, but it's something that you should do and do with that intention and be very intentional about it. So when do you give Zakat al-Fitr? That's the next question. There's a little bit of a difference of opinion among scholars around that, but we're not going to get into that. We're just going to talk about the practicality. There's a hadith, once again, عن ابن عمر رضي الله عنهما أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أمر بزكاة الفطر أن تؤدي قبل خروج الناس إلى الصلاة. That the Zakat al-Fitr should be paid before you go to Salat al-Eid. So if you're on your way to Salat al-Eid, then it's actually a little bit too late. So a person should do it before Salat al-Eid, and scholars have said that they can do it a few days before Salat al-Eid or at the beginning of Ramadan, or other scholars have even said that you can do it far in advance of Ramadan with that intention. And one of the beautiful considerations of Zakat al-Fitr is that it helps those who couldn't otherwise enjoy Eid to get the things that they need for Eid, such as food and gifts and clothing for their children. So the beautiful consideration of Zakat al-Fitr is that you are assisting someone else in enjoying their Eid, in making it a special occasion, in making it, beautiful and happy and joyful and blessed for them. So it's really amazing how this Zakat al-Fitr, after doing this month of Ramadan, that we have this consideration, or that we have this obligation within which there's this consideration for other people who, if they didn't have this, maybe Eid wouldn't be enjoyable for them. Maybe it would be a sad occasion. So I think it's really nice that we think about other people for Zakat al-Fitr and at the end of Ramadan. And the sunnah, even though you can do it in advance of Eid, the sunnah, the way that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, would do it is early in the morning before the prayer of Eid. But because we don't live, most of us at least don't live in societies and communities where people are very tight-knit, and you have these face-to-face relationships with people who might be of a different socioeconomic class, that it might be very difficult to just walk out of your door and find someone that you can give Zakat al-Fitr to early in the day. So it's probably wiser to give it earlier so that it can reach people who can make use of it and who need it. So if you know someone that you can give it to, that would be great. If you have a friend or an acquaintance that you know is someone in need and someone who is deserving of this, you can give it to them. But if you don't know someone like that off the top of your head, then give it earlier. And there are, different charitable organizations who would distribute that on your behalf. عن جرير بن عبد الله رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم صوم شهر رمضان معلق بين السماء والأرض. This is a beautiful hadith that عن جرير ibn Abdullah, he said that the fast of the month of Ramadan is suspended between the heavens and the earth. That the fast of the month of Ramadan is suspended between the heavens and the earth. وَلَا يُرْفَعُ إِلَّا بِزَكَاةِ الْفِطْرِ. And it is not ascended and elevated into the heavens except through Zakat al-Fitr, except through this special kind of charity. And this is a unique hadith, but it has a sound chain. So it shows how important it is. It shows us that you want to seek this acceptance in the month of Ramadan. You want this special, the fasting and this special month and all the things that you have exerted yourself in to be accepted. So one of the ways that you ensure that, and one of the ways that you really complete all of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from you in the month of Ramadan, is to pay the Zakat al-Fitr. So it's something not to be taken lightly. It's extremely important. And although this hadith doesn't necessarily indicate that technically a condition for your fasting to be accepted is the Zakat al-Fitr, but it shows that they're connected and that we shouldn't take it lightly. And just like any believer who really wants to do things with excellence would make sure to give the Zakat al-Fitr, they want their fasting to be accepted, they wouldn't take this lightly. And righteous people throughout history, one of the things that they would be concerned about was the acceptance of good deeds. That it wasn't just about a checklist of, okay, I did this, I did this, I did that, I prayed, I fasted, but they were even really more deeply concerned about the question is Allah accepting this from me? It wasn't just about doing it, but they would wonder if it would actually count for them. That when I meet Allah, will this be counted in my favor? So Zakat al-Fitr helps us ensure that our fasting and our prayers and our recitation and our month of Ramadan will be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's another beautiful hadith that shows us an added element of the blessings and benefit of Zakat al-Fitr. عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما قال فرض رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم صدقة الفطر طهرة للصائم من اللغو والرفث وطعمة للمساكين. So he said the messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, made the Zakat al-Fitr, the charity of breaking the fast, an obligation for the person fasting, and that it is a purification for the fasting person from any kind of excessive speech or any vile speech. And it also serves as a way to feed people in need and poor people. So then he goes on to say, فَمَنْ أَدَّاهَا قَبْلَ الصَّلَاةِ فَهِيَ زَكَاةٌ مَقْبُولَةٌ. So whoever gives this charity before going to the Eid prayer, then it is considered as a Zakat al-Fitr that is accepted. وَمَنْ أَدَّاهَا بَعْدَ الصَّلَاةِ فَهِيَ صَدَقَةٌ مِنَ الصَّدَقَاتِ. And whoever gives this Zakat al-Fitr after the prayer, then it is counted for them as a regular charity. So it's important to do it before Salatul Eid, but it also shows us that it serves as an expiation for the shortcomings and mistakes that we've made in Ramadan. So there's multiple benefits for the community, for those in need, that it brings love between people. And there's a benefit for the person giving in that any of the shortcomings and mistakes and flaws and blemishes in their fasting will be removed and forgiven and beautified through Zakat al-Fitr. There's benefits in this life and in the hereafter for the individual and the community. So the call to action is very simple. Make sure to give Zakat al-Fitr before the Eid prayer. Make sure to do it, and make sure that if you might forget about it, do it sooner rather than later. But make sure whatever you do, to do it before the Eid al-Fitr and the prayer of Eid. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He bless our families and make Eid a joyous occasion for all of us and accept our fasting. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
Thank you for listening to Soul Food. To subscribe to the show, visit soulfood.fm, where you can subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, or by email. If you're on iTunes, please also leave us a rating and a review. It helps more people discover the show.